I heard of a young boy, a 13-year-old, who ended his life. I've heard that it was a result of bullying at school. It's hard to hear those stories. He hid his pain and his suffering behind a mask, a veil, something that covers our true selves. It's not just teens that wear masks. People suffering from anxiety, depression, mental illness, and any number of other things also wear masks. They hide behind them. Many have smiles. Many look as if nothing is wrong. Many people from the outside look the same as everyone else. And yet, their veil, their face, hides their emotions, their fears, their frustrations, their pain. Because we as a society aren't supposed to show that. This morning we hear in the first reading, Moses goes up onto the mountain, meets face to face with God, and comes down. Doesn't realize that he's shining, and everybody's afraid of him. He talks to the leaders and then covers his face. He understood that he was standing out, that he was set apart, that he was different. And so when he went back to talk to God, he would lift his veil. And then when he left God, he dropped it again. Because the brightness of God was reflected in Moses when Moses was speaking to him. But the veil covered the brightness of God. But then we have a transition, and we get to the gospel reading. And in the gospel reading, we hear the apostles, James and Peter and John, are up on a mountain with Jesus. And they're tired, but they stayed awake. And they look up, and they see Jesus has changed. His face has changed. His robes are a dazzling white. And he's talking to Moses and Elijah. For those three apostles, the veil of Jesus had been lifted. The apostles saw Jesus in his royal splendor. They saw Jesus as he was, as he is, as he always will be. They saw the true self of Jesus Christ. But that wasn't enough. Because then a cloud showed up. And they were terrified. And they heard a voice. This is my son, my chosen. Imagine bright, shining clothes, dazzling white, changed appearance, and now a voice from above. Had to feel awe and amazement at this new reality that they were experiencing. They were seeing Jesus unfiltered. So much so that they wanted to stay on the mountain forever. But we can't do that. They had to come down. They wanted to stay unfiltered. Society today is full of ways which we can filter ourselves, where we can project unto the world the image that we want the world to see. Social media is probably the one that's most relatable to people. We can post pictures smiling and happy and family and trips and cars and all of these wonderful things for the outside world to see that we do. And for a moment, that is our reality. But in reality, those are masks. We all struggle with things on a day-to-day basis. For those of you who are technologically savvy, Snapchat is an app that kids use, and all you do is take your picture and swipe left or right, and it changes the way you look, and you can become a monkey, and you can become this, and you can become that, always hiding who you are. Even our lives with digital cameras have changed how we see ourselves. When we were younger and we went on vacation, you took pictures with film. And then you went and got it developed, and you hoped when the pictures came back that you got what you wanted and not your finger or not something. But it was a life unfiltered. But today is a new world where we are afraid to show our whole self, our true self. We look to Paul, and in Corinthians, Paul says, "Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." And all of us, with unveiled faces, seeing the glory of the Lord as though reflected in a mirror, are being transformed into the transformed into the same image, from one degree of glory to another. Look into that mirror. The reflection you see is, and I repeat, is the glory of God in you. We are, we have been, and we always will be created in the image of God and of Jesus Christ. Even with our differences, even with our pain, our anxiety, our struggles, we are children of God, made in the image of God. And with that, God is well pleased. Oscar Romero, a newly sainted person, said, "We ought to go out the way Moses descended upon Mount Sinai, with his face shining, with his heart brave and strong, to face the world's difficulties." Unfortunately for that 13-year-old boy, and for the tens of thousands of other people who end their lives rather than casting aside the veil, it's too late. Their bright, shining faces are no longer reflected in that mirror. They have met our Savior. They have been given their reprieve from their masks. But for the millions of others left behind, living behind the masks, veiling their true self, know that it's not too late. Through the love of God and of our Savior Jesus Christ, we can have the courage to do as Paul says, to lift the veil, allow the reflected image of Christ in all its splendor shine forth from us. Look in the mirror, see the reflection, enjoy the shine. For we are all children of God, made in God's image, perfect as we are. And for that I say, thanks be to God.